All right, this is a Fox News alert on this Friday night. Big bombshell news. The Buzzfeed so-called bombshell you've been hearing about all day. It is a dud. It is a fraud. It is a lie. It is all fake news. So the professional Trump haters and the fake news media, they have yet done it again. And earlier today, Buzzfeed News reported a salacious story about Michael Cohen and President Trump, alleging that Cohen briefed Trump about a building project in Moscow numerous times and that the president directed Michael Cohen to lie about the existence of that project when it already had been well known. Now, the story allegedly sourced two anonymous federal law enforcement officials. As it turns out, this report was total fake news. Everyone at Buzzfeed tonight should be ashamed of themselves. But moments ago, the Office of Special Counsel, they actually issued a statement. They wrote, quote, Buzzfeed's description of the specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. Not accurate. But are we really surprised? Oh, and it even gets better. The editor-in-chief of Buzzfeed is actually standing by the reporting, which the FBI, the special counsel, completely refutes. Watch this.
The special counsel issued this very vague statement. We are eager to know what he's talking about.
Do you stand by the reporting that you guys published, which is is a scoop that no one else has or has confirmed?
Yes, as we wrote, we have two federal law enforcement officials, and no game plan with those titles, who have told us that President Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow.
All right, a bold stance from one of the leaders in fake news, and it gets even worse. Now, remember, this is the same Buzzfeed News, supposedly, that published the phony Hillary Clinton, bought and paid for, steal Russian dossier, and they never, ever tried to corroborate any of the details. And guess what? The latest devastating report contained no direct corroboration. I've been watching this all day, and one of the Buzzfeed reporters who actually broke the story even admitted he never actually saw the evidence that were referenced by his anonymous sources. Well, now watch this.
You have two law enforcement sources who tell you that they have seen evidence. Have you seen any of that other corroborating evidence?
No, I've not seen it personally, but the folks that we've talked to, the two officials that we've spoken to, are fully 100% read in.
All right, so there's two reporters for Buzzfeed. The other reporter responsible for this story is a guy by the name of Jason Leopold. He actually contradicts his co-author. Watch this.
Now, your colleague, who you wrote the story with, says that neither of you, when you talk about those documents, that you guys haven't actually seen them. You haven't seen the documents, the texts, the emails, et cetera. So how confident are you that they actually exist, that this is true?
I don't think that we've said that we haven't seen them. And we have been... I'll just say that we've seen documents. We've been briefed on documents. We're very confident.
You think that the two authors could get their story straight before appearing on national TV? Now, this was known earlier in the day. Now, getting stories right is not a strength of Jason Leopold. Now, in 2006, this so-called reporter, well, the Columbia Journalism Review all but pretty much called him a liar. The review wrote that he would get stories completely wrong. We knew that today. And, quote, even make up stuff with stories that had no sources at all. Well, it looks like he's done it again, all in a blatant effort to destroy President Trump. It's sad. But what's even really worse, even fake news, CNN, and conspiracy TV, MSNBC, well, they go with the story, but they're constantly, they put in this caveat over and over again. And this is what we heard all day long. Unverified. But if it's true, with a level of hysteria and excitement. And then, of course, how many times do they mention impeachment? Look at exactly what I mean.
The story, which has not been confirmed by NBC News.
We should note CNN has not independently confirmed Buzzfeed's reporting, nor, for that matter, has anyone else.
An explosive new report that, if true,
if you believe the reporting, if this is confirmed,
if all of this is true,
if true,
we don't have sourcing that confirms this story, but we're not getting steered off of it.
we don't know for sure. You said you couldn't corroborate this. If true,
This is a potentially very big development.
if it's true. If true. Oh. Now, despite all these red flags, many others in the mainstream media breathlessly, hysterically pushing this fake, phony, fraudulent story and, of course, predicting Trump's imminent impeachment, as they always do, for 2 years. Take a look.
Still no reaction this morning from President Trump to a report that ties him directly to the very same offense for which the House of Representatives moved to impeach Richard Nixon.
That appears that if true, he'd be guilty of suborning perjury, potentially obstruction of justice. It seems like an impeachable offense. It's exactly the kind of thing that drove Richard Nixon from office.
This report is a huge deal, and you know these are very credible reporters. We're deep in the realm now of credibly impeachable offenses.
There are an awful lot of similarities between a couple of the articles of impeachment against Nixon and the elements of this story.
Impeachment would actually allow him to at least do what he loves, which is to be a snowflake and pretend he's the victim and the Democrats are this and that. But at the end of the day, I think the impeachment process, if these facts are corroborated in today's report, I actually just don't see how Congress can do anything else.
All right, you would think by now the so-called journalists in the echo chamber, the extension of the Democratic Party, would have learned their lesson. They have been burned so many times before in the last 2 years. Remember the short-lived hysteria about NPR's fake Don Jr. story? Remember the hype surrounding Michael Cohen's so-called secret Prague trip? It never happened. Or the Guardian's false reporting about Paul Manafort? Or when 3 CNN fake news staffers, they were forced to resign after reporting fake news about our friend Anthony Scaramucci. Look at the list we have compiled. Fake story after fake story. Now, the Washington Examiner put this together. 47 printed pages for 1 year alone against Donald Trump of fake news that they breathlessly report. Unbridled, remember what I said at the beginning of the year, hatred of the president. So many forced corrections, but then they just keep doing it again and again. How many anonymous sources, hearsay, rumors? Do you think any of this is good for the country? Are they looking out for your security, the economy, a better job for your children, a better future for our grandkids? You know what? Right now, one more notch in the old fake news belt. It is beyond disgusting, but you just saw it all day. People screaming, impeach, impeach, impeach. This is all the hate that we get, as I've been saying, every second, every minute, every hour of every day from the Democrats, the hate Trump press, and, of course, the deep state. Now, all of a sudden today, the hate Trump media was concerned about obstruction of justice. That's what they wanted you to believe today. But they're the same people who gave Hillary Clinton a pass. It's been almost 2 straight years of never-ending conspiracy theories, fake news hatred, not just for the president, though, but also for the people that voted for this president. I've said it since 2007 and 8. Journalism in America is dead and it is buried. And driven by an unprecedented pathological hatred for the president, the bias in this country has become more important than what is fact, what is reporting, rumors more important than sources, as reckless speculation rules the day. Now, we told you at the beginning of the year on this program, we will always fight back. We want the country to be safer, more secure. We want every American family prosperous, and we're going to look out for you, the American people, because you deserve better than what the rest of the media is offering, which is why we actually cover, for example, the crisis at our southern border. Now, when the fake news industry is too busy with their fake stories and conspiracy theories about the president, well, today, nearly 400 migrants were apprehended by Border Patrol at once after all crossing illegally. The situation is urgent. It is serious. Yet, someone still needs to remind the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, that we're in the middle of a government shutdown. Her detachment, her indifference, her lack of self-awareness is beyond shocking. Now, today, Speaker Pelosi and other top Democrats, once again, they tried to just skip out of town. A week-long international excursion, which would have guaranteed the furloughed employees, some 800,000 of them, don't get paid again. Now, this time they're going to take a commercial plane just for show after the president foiled her first attempt to leave the country on your dime in a U.S. military aircraft. But now after her new plans were leaked, sparking security concerns. Pelosi's overseas voyage has once again been postponed indefinitely. Now, maybe she'll accept what is the president's daily invitation to negotiate safety, security in our country and the government shutdown. Now, a spokesperson for the speaker actually blamed the president, of course, for the leak, an allegation the White House has called a flat-out lie. So here we are today, 28 days into a government shutdown, and the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, the most powerful Democrat in the country, is trying desperately once again to leave town, refusing to negotiate yet again. Remember, she took her lengthy tropical vacation at the beginning of the shutdown. Dozens of other Democrats, they had a luxurious vacation paid for by lobbyists in a chartered aircraft to Puerto Rico, while Pelosi and Schumer sent aides to negotiate with the vice president of the United States instead of helping the furloughed employees and creating more security that they did support 4 years ago. So tonight, we've got to ask some really important, obvious questions. Does Speaker Pelosi really want an answer, a solution? Is she really working at all? Is she now compromised by the radical left wing of her party and scared to death to even talk to the president? Does she care about the 90% of heroin in this country coming across our southern border, or the gangs, or the cartels, or the human trafficking? She won't even talk to the angel moms and dads that went outside her office this week that have lost their children because of illegal immigration. Now, the president, he didn't go on vacation. He's been here the whole time, inviting Democrats every day. He's trying to fulfill not only a campaign promise, but he's trying to keep the country safe, trying to prevent the drugs from coming into the country. Remember, maybe the 1 or 2% of those people that enter the country illegally, they're criminals, and murders have happened, and worse. And, how many sexual assaults? How many violent assaults? Now, the president tweeted today, I will be making a major announcement concerning the humanitarian crisis on our southern border and the shutdown tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. live from the White House. He's working on Saturday. In the meantime, President Trump is ready, willing, able to negotiate, and has been since day one of the shutdown. Democrats have offered nothing except $1. No negotiations, no compromise, no time with the president. They just sit back and do nothing. Hundreds of thousands of government employees are not receiving their pay. The speaker is having a meltdown about not getting to take a government-funded trip on your dime. And even worse, thousands of lives have been lost, thousands more devastated by the flow of illegal drugs, human trafficking, the opioid crisis, the gang activity across the southern border, and Nancy Pelosi complaining about having to postpone a government-funded trip. That's where her mind is tonight. But fear not, let not your heart be troubled. Speaker Pelosi, while Americans suffer, while we're not safer, well, your close friends in the mainstream media, they're cheering you every step of the way. Just like last week, manufactured crisis. Democrats say it, the media says it. They're like tight at the hip. Take a look.
President Trump is coming face-to-face with the reality of the opposition party controlling the House. This morning, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi threw him a hard fastball.
Speaker Pelosi playing hardball.
You could say she's playing hardball.
House Speaker Pelosi flexing her constitutional muscle.
Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi flexing her muscles.
In a bold power play, the Speaker of the House tonight is sending a pointed message to President Trump.
It is a power play, and Nancy Pelosi is revealing that she's got a PhD in needling President Trump.
She knows where to go exactly to hit him where he hurts.
I mean, this is political genius. I give Nancy Pelosi credit for her political sense.
I mean, it's kind of badass from Nancy Pelosi. She was showing that she's in charge. Nancy Pelosi, I mean, what a badass.
You know what? Maybe it's time for the Speaker of the House to actually start listening to the American people, start solving problems, stop appealing to your radical base. In other words, really simply, you need to do your job. The president, his door is wide open. Go negotiate a deal. Maybe you'll get some of the things you say that you want. Secure the borders, reopen the government. And for goodness sake, get out of your ivory tower. If not, the president, well, he'll just act without you. Now, let's not lose sight of the fact of what we're fighting for. Don't be fooled by all the Trump haters. The crisis at the southern border is not manufactured. In fact, as you can see, a brand new migrant caravan marching toward our southern border as we speak. Earlier today, thousands of migrants poured into southern Mexico. After authorities there, they just left the gates at the border wide open. Mexican border guards didn't show up until sunrise, or actually after sunrise. So now while Mexico may be embracing open borders, the president, he's continuing to stand strong, stay on the job, waiting to negotiate, waiting to keep his promise to secure the border of this country. This is about life and death. He tweeted today, quote, "Another big caravan is heading our way. Very hard to stop without a wall." And the fact is we have an actual crisis on our southern border. Just look at this video from Border Patrol in the Yuma sector in Arizona, where nearly 400 migrants apprehended at once today after crossing illegally. That is not manufactured. That is the reality. We need these physical barriers, which are effective all across the world. Remember yesterday, also in Arizona, a group of migrants, they were caught trying to tunnel under a wall. But because there was a wall, they couldn't just walk across and flee law enforcement. And once they tunneled through, they were promptly caught. Oh, the wall works. Now, don't expect to hear any of this from the hate Trump media. As you can see from tonight's Buzzfeed, huge, massive embarrassment. The fake news epidemic has never been worse. And by the way, it all surrounds one thing, their hatred of all things Donald Trump. And by the way, Trump supporters. And that's why they're all completely ignored what was major news that we had this week about the deep state, about FISA abuse. And meanwhile, we've been one of the only programs reporting these latest developments. And needless to say, it was a bad week for some of those embedded inside of our government that don't like the president. We learned under James Comey's watch, his general counsel, we learned this week, James Baker is now under a criminal investigation. And according to John Solomon's reporting, and don't forget, Andrew McCabe, his deputy, is also under a criminal investigation. And John Solomon pointing out that James Comey and others were all briefed about the phony dossier back in August. They were told by Bruce Orr, according to his sworn testimony that we only got this week, that he told all of them in the FBI, all of them in the State Department, oh, Hillary paid for it, and Christopher Steele hates the president. Oh, and by the way, they put this thing together, and I wouldn't trust it. But in spite of that warning, they went ahead anyway. And as the Grassley-Graham memo pointed out, the bulk of information was used in the FISA warrant. That would be a conspiracy to commit a fraud against the court. And we also know Andrew Weissman and another Mueller investigator. They were also briefed on these warnings. They knew it was biased and unverified. Hillary paid for Russian lies to influence the 2016 election. But still, Mueller used it as a basis of his investigation, but never investigated Hillary, who bought it. Now, we've been warning you for months. This is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in modern American history. And by the way, the news media can be biased in other ways, like what they don't report.